We're going to talk about rethinking through or reimagining the ways that we engage with international students and scholars. And we'll do some quick introductions. I'm Moroni Flake. I've been in international education since about 2014 and started Homebase in 2019 and been doing that since. Geet.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Geet Vanaik. I'm the executive director at WashU in St. Louis. I've been in the field for close to 20 years, which seems like a really long time, but it's been a whirlwind. And thanks for joining our session. We're very excited to present to all of you.
Hi everyone, I'm Sharon Ericsson. I'm an international student advisor at University of California at Davis, and I've been in international education for about 10 years. I've been at UC Davis for 7 years.
Okay, so during my time working with international services offices, I was seeing very consistent challenges, both for advisors and also for students and scholars, and wanted to think through a better way of addressing those challenges. Can we address many of them early on? And so I actually met Sharon in 2019, 2020, when she was talking about moving their pre-arrival and orientation online. We started engaging there. I started attending some in-person pre-arrival and orientation sessions at universities and started to try and understand and learn and try and pull in as much information as I could. And the thought or the process, the thought that was, if we rethink through how we're providing information to students, if we're providing the right information at the right time in ways that work really well for them, then we can decrease the advising workload and we can improve the student and scholar experience. And we've been able to prove that out really well over the last few years. And so what we're seeing is a significant reduction in emails coming into international offices. Like I just was talking to the University of Utah on Friday, and she said, I haven't received a single email about health insurance. And because you're able to address many of these challenges, and then students know where they can find the information more really quickly and in ways that are accessible to them. So whether it's through mobile or whether it's online, they're able to quickly find information. And then also, this started with pre-arrival and orientation. It since has moved to many points of engagement, whether it's OPT, CPT, whether it's H-1Bs or interacting with departments, whether it's academic advisors or departments that are inviting H-1Bs or Js. It's really moved to all facets of and all audiences that engage with the International Services Office. And so what we're seeing is we're able to automate processes. So depending on your systems that you're using, we say, okay, hey, what workflows make sense? Are you using Teradata? Are you using Banner? Are you using Synapsys? And we use integrations to really automate those processes and those workflows. And it reduces the time or the burden on the international office. And on the student side, it really simplifies their experience. They have one intentional space where they're able to engage really effectively. They're able to feel a greater sense of support coming from the university from the moment they're admitted, or even in some cases, even before they're admitted, and then all throughout their journey through OPT. And we're able to address many of the challenges that are unique to them. Many of the regulatory, logistical, cultural, or social challenges are able to be addressed effectively, and they're able to feel a much greater sense of belonging within the university. And so, how does this work? Let me go quickly. So we said, hey, we, meaning Homebase, we'll work on the technology side of things, and we'll build a community of universities, large and small, and we'll get input from that community. And we'll start to build resources together, figure out, discover best practice together. And it's been a really interesting experience as we get lots of feedback and input. And so here's some examples for Washington University. Here's some of these courses that you'll see here are live with their students, like this OPT Essentials course or this one for J Scholars. Some of these are just templates. And so we have a set right now, it's maybe 9 or 10 templates. We'll be coming out with a STEM OPT extension template, a Know Your Legal Rights in the USA template, taxes for students in the US. So we're continually putting out new content as we build it with the community of universities. And we get a lot of feedback, a lot of input coming back to us. And so when we build the template, it might get the university 80 to 90, 95% of the way there. In certain pages, you'll just go in and you'll say, okay, let's substitute out a photo for our campus. Let's put in our text here. Let's go to, let's link to our housing page here. But a lot of the content is ready to go right out of the box. And so, things like your status, your responsibility, will have about 30 videos, or right now about 25 videos, but we're consistently bringing out new videos on everything from maintaining your status to avoiding scams to, tips for finding housing to social norms, all sorts of different pieces. But one of the ways we're able to reduce so many questions is just through these knowledge checks, through these verifying the many ways we have of verifying understanding. So the example on this page would be a quiz question. Other pages, it's more of a check mark, like, hey, check each box to indicate you understand, or signatures. There's lots of different ways of verifying understanding. You can do posts on different topics. But the idea is we'll build the template. We'll send it your way. You quickly go in and you can edit, update, and launch something. I think the fastest to launch. I just learned of one university who launched their OPT course in an hour and a half. That was the University of Tampa, and Baylor launched their pre-arrival and orientation in less than in a week, spending a few hours a day. So it's a very quick process to go through this and launch it. And we continually ask students and scholars questions, and continually seeking their feedback and continually adding to the platform. So we now have, overcoming major housing challenges by having a housing portal here that's very specific to them. The community, we layer in ways for them to engage with each other and to engage effectively with the university. We'll continually build these out over time. But one point that I wanted to show as well before I pass it over to Geet is the community resources. So like I mentioned, we're really working to facilitate an open community and an open dialogue with all the universities that we're working with. And so so you can come here and you can see how is Sharon and her team, how are they doing their pre-arrival and orientation? So for them, they break it out into multiple steps and break it out by multiple audiences. Whereas you'll see that for Northwestern, as another example, you'll see one course for everybody. And so you'll see different strategies at different universities. And we're able to facilitate conversations as to advantages, disadvantages. We're all able to improve together. And then we'll see common themes. So for example, right now, a common theme is more universities are sending more information earlier, especially visa prep interviews. So sending this out, whether it's pre-issuance or right when they issue the I-20, we're seeing a lot of that. And then you can come in here, you can say University of Florida's Department Admin training. You can see CPT courses at various institutions. You can see some of the different templates that we have. This is a new one that was just put out, Know Your Rights in the USA. So you can come here, you can see how other institutions are doing it. So if you're about to launch an OPT course, you start from OPT template, but you also get to see how is Northwestern or WashU or Hamilton, how are they presenting their OPT? And so, obviously universities opt into sharing this information, but by them making this available, it helps you benchmark the resources that you're providing your students and scholars as well. But yeah, lots of different information in here that can be shared. I'll pause there and kick it over to Geet. And let me pull that PowerPoint back up really quickly.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. So, I got introduced to Homebase at NAFSA, and, Moroni and I just started talking, and I was just sharing with him. At that time I was at Northwestern, we have this constant, huge caseloads, perpetually being understaffed, and just really high burnout and just different things. And the biggest challenge that we had at that time was the volume of emails, and especially related to onboarding, right in the August, September time with new students. And we would use Canvas, and we'd spend the entire summer setting up Canvas, working with IT, making all the updates. And then what we would get to is a slew of emails just to get students to get access to Canvas. So access to Canvas was so challenging, especially for students who hadn't activated their, university email, or they didn't read all the communication we had sent them. And it was just a constant back and forth. And then students were like, did I complete this? I didn't get any completion email. Do I need to do something else? So just the communication around Canvas was such a pain point. I had to hire like a part-time person, and like for like at least 2 weeks in like end of August, September, that was like their job, is just responding to all the Canvas things. So I was telling Moroni all about this, and he's like, have you looked into Homebase? And I was like, no, I think somebody at my previous institution was using it, but like, tell me more. And so he's like, you can launch this in a week. And I'm like, Moroni, like I have staff that are super overwhelmed. You want me to go back to them at the beginning of summer, right after NAFSA, and tell them we're going to get a new software and we're going to build a new course before August and everything's going to go well. They're going to look at me and just be like, what are you talking about? So I was like, let's start with the J side because it's a little bit more manageable. He was trying to convince me extremely. He's like, no, you can do the F. I was like, oh, we want to get buy-in from the team. So anyway, so we started with the J side. We started with J Scholars. Prior to Homebase, we were using a presentation. And we were like, with all of our J check-ins, we would be like, you need to come and listen to this session by a J advisor, and then we will check you in. And sometimes they could join, they couldn't join, they didn't get the email. It was such a pain point for us. So anyway, but the J Scholar orientation was easier to like launch for us because we had a PowerPoint, we put everything in Homebase. Homebase gave us a great template to start off with. And like, I think Moroni and I met with a couple people on my team for like an hour, and within like a week, we had a J1 Scholar course that was good enough for other advisors to start reviewing and providing input. And within a couple weeks, we could have implemented it, right? For us, we were a little risk adverse. It was new to us. We were a little bit slower. Now we've gotten a lot faster at WashU. But I did not get any pushback from my team when I said we wanted to implement this and to edit this. And that to me was like kind of a light bulb. I was like, well, what else can we use this for? Of course, we're going to use it for F1 orientation, but what else can we use it for? And that just kind of set it off. And then we started building the next piece of Homebase, which I thought was really helpful to us, was the knowledge check questions and the assessment that we could do. Because we know like students just scroll, or scholars just scroll through things, but for the questions, they were taking time. So we're like, okay, here's some content, but let's really spend time in building those questions. And we got a lot out of that because we had a huge reduction in email on the scholar side. And we're like, okay, we've hit something here that we want to expand. So again, I started at Northwestern with building courses, but then I quickly, left and have been here at WashU for over a year. And we've just taken Homebase to another level. Like we've done so much work in such shorter period of time. We got much quicker at it because it's my second implementation in a large R1 institution. We are currently using the Scholar pre-arrival. For the students, we want to do something for H1Bs. Our OPT just launched in December. We're hoping to do STEM, CPT. We're also planning to do department courses. And then we are also trying to test more on the database side for WashU Global, but I can see Homebase being used by other departments, just not only OISS. But our biggest buy-in at WashU for Homebase, especially for the J Scholars and the students, is that it's accessible from outside the US. We have a really hard time at WashU, and I'm sure a lot of your schools have this with duo security and things like that, like Canvas is not accessible. Our Workday system is not as accessible outside the US. And so we have all these individuals that are not here at WashU, and we want to give them this really important information, but like they can't get access. So the way we look at Homebase is there's nothing proprietary in our Homebase courses. It's all just curated content that's public content that's already on our websites. Even our assessments, it's out there. All this information is out there, and we grant access to anybody with an email. So if somebody with a non-WashU email wants access, or a parent wants access, we're happy to do that. The reason we're able to do that is we don't have the community portion active, because again, for us at this point, at the scale that we are, we want to keep it open access. I think we've talked about, connecting it to Teradata and different things. We haven't gotten there yet. That's something we want to look into the future. But as of right now, it's open access to anybody, and we've had a lot of success. The other piece that we do with Homebase, and that was a big pain point for Canvas, is we always had to go back into Canvas, download the data, and see like who's done the course, how much time they've spent, if they've completed the course. So with Homebase, it produces like a real certificate at the end of the course completion. And we just ask students to upload this, and scholars to upload this as part of their check-in request. And so then we use that to activate their CVIS record. And we know that we have 100% compliance and completion rate. So we're not spending time and energy tracking down if a student did not or did do it, or a scholar. So this has made a huge difference, again, from a staffing level to like manage orientation, especially on the J side, to make sure that everyone is going through this J orientation, and we have documentation to back it up. Okay, next slide.
Sorry,
Okay,
go ahead.
here's some of the stats, right? Like I started already talking about this. What I saw was, again, a 50% reduction in emails. We had fewer walk-ins. The templates that my staff got from Moroni and team were like a huge win, because again, when staff hear you're implementing another system, automatically this idea of like, oh my God, you're increasing my workload. I don't know how this is going to work. The tracking has been great. We have had 100% completion. And one of the things that we saw at student orientation, we had students like that had completed the course, helping students that hadn't done the course with the answers, because not only did they feel like they had the information, but they felt confident enough in the information to help other students. And that was really cool to see like play out in real time. So again, our on-campus orientation we thought was much better, because we could focus on, bigger things, not just compliance, like interacting with each other, things that like basic needs of students when they're thinking about in their first week classes, housing, food, and just community engagement. And so that was really great to have. Again, we gave a quick overview of compliance, but it wasn't like the central theme for our in-person orientation. And again, the last point I want to make is I feel way more secure for my advisors, both on the student and scholar side, knowing that we have Homebase, knowing that we have this assessment knowledge check questions built in. So when they're doing their advising, students have already had exposure to this content. And there's a little bit of reduced risk, right? So I'll give you an example for like OPT. And this has come up, I think I've seen this on listservs and different things, every year there's always a student who gets their I-20 from the DSO and does not file their OPT application within 30 days. And then they get a denial. And sometimes that denial comes at the point where you can't fix it as a DSO. And so in those cases, having Homebase and having that question, that whole knowledge check about applying on time and what that means and how we can't fix it, and to have that built into a course before a student applies for OPT, before we issue them an I-20, is such a peace of mind for me. Because even if the student's going to come back and say, I didn't know, you can pull this up and say, actually, you did this assessment, you went through it, here's your course certificate, here's also communication we sent you about it. So you just have another check and balance. And I think, again, things happen, but for advisors, I feel like it gives them another point of security. And then this amazing tool that Moroni has started and has implemented, this calculator, right? Because there's constant questions about When is it appropriate for me to apply for OPT? When will I be able to start my job? So all these kinds of questions, we're trying to streamline all this information, whether you're working at a large school like us or you're working at a small school, your students still have access to really good content and you don't have to invest time and energy in building it. So I'll stop there. That's a lot of information and we have a lot more slides and I'll hand it over to Sharon.
Thanks, Geet. All right, so the UC Davis story. So we've been using Homebase for a little over 2 years now. Before 2022, we had our pre-arrival orientation embedded in Synopsys via quizzes and YouTube videos that we created, just like little Zoom videos that we uploaded to YouTube and Youku. And then our like a middle bullet point that is not existing here on the left would be our arrival. We would do in person. So we would spend an hour in person going over the regulatory requirements with every single one of our new 1,000 to 2,000 new students each fall. And then we would follow up that with an extended orientation online that we did in Canvas. And then we would supplement with in-person social events as well. Well, I'll say then the challenges that we experienced with that were, Canvas, all of the things ditto to everything that Geet said. Labor intensive, the manual checking, the emails to, all the same. And also just, we had so many emails coming into our inbox, in that time before they actually arrived on our campus. So we knew there was something we needed to do. Synopsys is fabulous for data. It's, we rely on it for all of the, all of our requests and compliance and all of that. However, there are some limitations to what we could do orientation wise in Synopsys. It just was a little bit inflexible for some of those purposes. We do still use Synopsys for the pre-arrival, but we've figured out a way. Once we realized Homebase could be integrated with Synopsys, it really opened the door for us and solved a lot of our issues and challenges because we knew we could increase our engagement with students. So next slide, please. So our current arrival flow is students get access to a Homebase pre-arrival course before we even issue the I-20. So we know that they will get this information beforehand. And that's all like the important information about requesting the I-20, what is an I-20 or DS 2019. I'll also say that, sorry, I could have said this at the beginning, but we started Homebase with our student team. Later on, our scholars, so we started with our students. Now our scholars use it as well. That we're divided in our unit in 2 separate teams within our department. And so for students, they're getting that information about their I-20 or their GS 2019 and how to enter an arrival and visa and all of that through a pre-arrival course, which it's mandatory. They cannot get their document issued without it. And so we have that all figured out how to do that from, Synopsys and emails to connecting them to Homebase. And then and then it's reported back in Synopsys that they've completed their pre-arrival course and then they can move on in the process. We do some other, webinars and such to connect with students. We're adding more now. Now that Homebase has really relieved a lot of the labor for us with orientations, we're now looking into doing more of the kind of face-to-face like webinars and connection with students before they even get here. So we'll start doing like 1 a month to connect with them to increase our yield. Then they get, number 4, they get the Homebase F1 and J1 arrival orientation. We split those out. Before we used to have just one in Canvas. And it was like the F1s were getting J1 information, which was confusing. The J1s were getting F1. So that's why now we have 2 separate arrival orientations in Homebase. And they get access to that up to 30 days prior to their program start date. So they can start to calm those nerves, understand like what's going to happen when they arrive, understanding the regulations before they're overwhelmed. We used to do it before where they didn't even have to start the the extended orientation in Canvas until 3 weeks after the term started. By then, they're too busy. We're on a quarter system. They're hitting midterms already. So we were really able to front load the information, get them the access earlier. And one of the most important things I would say with Homebase for us is that we are able to infuse our home-based courses with a sense of place. So through videos and photos and student testimonials, so that students are starting to get connected to us and our institution before they even arrive, and starting to calm those nerves, get more excited to come, and get more prepared by getting the information they need just in time when they need it. Then we still can do our, optional in-person socials or in-person J1 workshops. But they can do everything online now and we don't have to present over and over and over again in person once they hit the campus, to 100 students at a time, 12 times. So it's been really great for us. Okay, next slide. So these are all the ways that we're using it. Now you can see too how we've added the department training for on the scholar side, and getting to UC Davis. We also used it to do a focus group, which helped informed us on how students are interacting with Homebase, students and scholars, how they feel about it, what's been valuable, which ways they're using it. And then we're using it in other ways now too. It says planned uses, where we have now a UC Davis OPT tutorial. We're actually launching it on next week. We also have the I-765 guide, and we're really improving that process as well. Just like Geet said, it's like we've really designed it so that we can give them the information they need in a clear way to try to mitigate those mistakes they made, like submitting to USCIS before they have the I-20 with OPT recommendation. Then next we'll move on to STEM OPT. We would like to use it to provide some tax information. We want to use it for retention for undergraduate students on academic warning. We hope to use it to connect with our alumni community, because we'll have the students from OPT that have done the OPT course that we could have in an alumni community. And then eventually we'll use it for CPT as well. So all of our work authorization. So yeah, it's really helped us to reduce the work. It's helped to bring everything together into one place. So it's really clear every year, okay, is there anything we need to update? Okay, maybe there's some information on travel or visas we need to update, but by and large, it's there. It's ready to go. It's super easy to update. We can even update it on the fly, as we go. It's not like having to re-record a PowerPoint, redo a PowerPoint, redo an in-person training. It's like everything can be updated instantaneously. Very easy to edit. Moroni and his team have been great with any technical assistance that we might need, but there's been, minimal required for that. And then all of the videos, we don't have the budget to keep making videos for our students. So we do really utilize those videos and the templates. We've seen higher completion rates for our students by using it, and then we're higher rates for ensuring compliance, because we know that the students are doing it, because then it's tracked in Synopsys for us. We can clearly see, and we don't have to do any kind of manual tracking for that. There's automated emails go out, hey, you didn't do your arrival yet, hey, you have 7 days to do your arrival. And we've just been able to go kind of hands off in a lot of ways to get to meet our goals. Next slide. Yeah, students, it's definitely more user friendly. Lots more photos, ways for them to engage. The knowledge checks we have we use the community section as well, and there's ways for them to ask an advisor a question, to ask other students. It really, like I talked about, creating the sense of belonging for them, and it helps them feel comfortable coming to this like small little town, but that has a lot going on that they have to navigate. And then it helps them answer questions they don't know they had. You know, like they get to see through our FAQs and through questions that we know are commonly coming into our inbox. We're able to preemptively put those questions and answers out in the orientations online and in the courses so that they have that access to the information.
Yeah, just one comment. So one thing that we throw out to students, or one thing we hear back consistently is, what's your favorite part of the platform? They say videos. What do you want more of? They say videos. And so we have a bunch of videos in there, but Sharon's team has done a really wonderful job of adding a bunch of their own, right? So in the pre-arrival, the pre-issuance course, they have videos of students talking about their experiences at UC Davis. And, they select students from different regions and they have a set of videos that students can watch there. And then in their arrival orientation, they have an intro to each of the advisors and they have a video. And so Sharon's talked about how what happens then is those students then come up and they tap on your shoulder at an orientation and say, hey, I saw you. And so it doesn't take a lot of effort to record a video and just say, hey, here's who I am, here's how I can help, and here's a few things that I love about campus. We're so excited to have you come. And it can take 1 or 2 minutes to do something that's simple, but then that gets magnified or expanded across all of your students. And so Sharon and the UC Davis team have especially done a great job of helping the incoming students get a sense of the campus community. If there's time, I can pull up some of their site and actually show how they've done that. But also anybody that's in the system can just go look at their courses and model after that. I'll go to the next slide and kick you back to Sharon.
So this is, I mentioned communities. So there's a community portal that the students are all in for once they join our orientation courses. And they have these different sections where they can introduce themselves to fellow students. They can ask us a question. There's an announcement section where we can put out announcements about events. There's also an event section, but the announcements has been really great. And we have found that we have increased tremendously our attendance at those in-person social events at the start of the year by posting them on Homebase, because students are they can elect to get like an email or text prompt for those announcements. And so it's just a really fast way, which isn't burdening our other system to send out emails or relying on them to, read a long newsletter. They're able to just quickly get information about events. And then within the, so there's the announcements, just like some samples of things. Also in community, there is a way for them to filter by interest or education level or country of origin, and they can start connecting with others based on affiliations and affinities. And that has been huge for helping them kind of find their sense of community, finding their tribe, getting involved, and decreasing all the homesickness, loneliness, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, maybe I'll show not a student community, but an admin one that we just have as a placeholder for Homebase. So, okay, so within a student community, these are not students, but they could come in here and they could say, I want to find other students or other scholars from my home country or who study the same topics, or whatever their particular interest is. I remember talking to one scholar at one of the Ivy Leagues, and he'd been there for 2 years, and he said, what would have really helped me is if I was able to talk to another scholar from India before I came, so that I could understand some of the cultural challenges within the lab, because it's not any of the academic or research pieces that he was struggling with. It was the dynamic within the lab. And he said, okay, if I could also have talked to somebody else that worked in my lab that wasn't from my home country, then I could have really understood some things. And so they're able to opt into this, and they're able to then connect really organically, and a lot of back-end messages happen directly. And then I saw a question in the chat about dependence. So when students come in here, they can add guests, and students or scholars, and they can add guests that view all of the same content. within the courses, but then you can also create communities for those groups. So these are dynamic, so you can really choose what you want to do, what you want to launch, what you don't want to launch. Most schools have 2 or 3 channels. UC Davis so they have this group of channels for their students. They just launched this one, 2 weeks ago, and had a mad burst of interaction from students, all posting about subleases and looking for roommates. And so it really hit on a nerve there when they posted that one, and made it obvious that they could chat about housing there. And so then their scholars come into these spaces, and then you could have international family. You could just set it up dynamically to where you could have J2s and or parents come into different spaces, and then they can connect directly. So that's just a visual to go with what Sharon shared about the community.
I can start us off just really quickly with the getting leadership buy-in. So yes, we did have to get on board our leaders to help us get the approvals to get Homebase on our campus. And really we did that by just aligning with our institutional objectives. We did our list of pros and cons, but really it was all the pros, that we were going to reduce workload, better student scholar experience, improve compliance, and that it was more sustainable for us long term. It was just going to be a better way to go and improve our key metrics.
Geet, anything you want to add?
Yeah, so I will add, this was a really easy proposition because, prior to Homebase, I mean, I was still doing this after Homebase, but prior to that, I was like, I need an FTE. I need someone focused on, just all these orientation tasks. But I said I would give them a 6-month reprieve if we could implement Homebase and kind of see like how those metrics improve with volume of emails and different things. I think it was like a no-brainer. Like you at this point probably aren't able to add staff to your team. Maybe like you've had staff leave and you can't do backfills, but you still have that workload, right? So I think for me, it was really important to express to our provost that we are trying to work smarter. Like we're trying to do the same amount of work, provide good service and intention to our student and scholar population with the same staffing level, but trying to find innovative technology tools that help us with this very critical thing that we've done is admitted or invited all of these students and scholars to campus, but then what? What happens next? What's their experience after that? And so that was the key to get buy-in. And then I also negotiated with Moroni a little bit. I don't know if he wants me to say this online, but if you're like at the borderline or you have a little bit of budget, I would connect with Moroni, I would get it implemented, and then you can start bringing in all the data to show your leadership. And the data is so powerful coming out of Homebase that I have not had a senior leader say to me, well, it doesn't make sense or it's too expensive. When they see it and they see how much engagement and how much work is happening and how excited the students are and how it helps the reputation of the institution, I've had almost zero pushback.
I would also just add that we know international offices, almost across the board, are resource constrained in finances and in their time. And I gave a presentation with a couple other universities at the National NAFSA conference about the stress on international office staff. We did surveys for, I think we had 700 responses. And so we presented with Ivor at Berkeley and a few other directors about that topic. So I deeply understand the stress that international offices are broadly experiencing. And so, yeah, like Geet said, whether it's a financial constraint, let's work through it. And if it's a time constraint, I've had people compare implementing Homebase to implementing Teradata. That those are two conceptually different worlds, and don't compare the two. We're happy to be as supportive as you want us to be in the process. We have Drew Webster, who and a few others from industry who were previously associate directors at international offices who used Homebase at their institutions, who now work with us. And their entire role is to support the universities, support them in implementing, and we can be as involved or as hands off as you'd like us to be. And so it can be as simple as, hey, we'll do a kickoff call, we'll get you familiar with the systems and get you going, and then it's hands off, you're good to go. Or it can be, hey, we'll build everything for you. We'll build like literally your entire course, give us access. Like, for example, one university just gave us access to their Rice University just gave us access to their Canvas course, and we'll build their first implementation, and they'll do a review and additions, and they can iterate that over time. But that's a lot of universities. Like, I think there's probably 10 or 12 universities today that we are building their courses for them. We'll hand it to them for a review. And so we know you have significant constraints on your time, and so we want to be supportive in making it work for you. And also on the budget side, like Geet said, if it's something where you need to do a trial or you need to push out into the new academic year, we can be flexible and just we've been very, very flexible. And so going into
and then while you're going into that data, I just want to mention, the other thing that's unique about Homebase is like just the Homebase community for all of you. So like my team engages, I think it's monthly or weekly, I don't know, Moroni, you can give them specifics, but like whenever we have like a question or we feel like there's a need for like some community to weigh in, which is all of you, we post things on the Homebase community, and that's not for students, that's just for all of you, and we get answers and we get engagement. I've shared my contact with hundreds of people. I've had people reach out to me, they're like, I'm dealing with this or that. So it's not just you're getting Homebase, but you're also getting this community. And then like Moroni is always doing innovative things. So like one of the things he's doing, and I'll just put this in chat, is he's bringing in, former visa officers who are giving a talk about the visa update, the landscape, and that's just for anyone that's, working as a DSO, ARO, advisors. I've had my admissions staff go and just see like, what are we expecting this, coming like summer and fall for our newly admitted students. Really insightful. So I would definitely tell you to register for that. And then he's also working with these same individuals, immigration attorneys, former visa officers, to create something similar for students. So like how to prepare students for their visa appointments and just expectations. So there's always innovative things that Homebase is thinking of, that there's a need in the field, but like maybe our individual schools can't do, but would really make a difference in the impact. So I would just say like, it's not just a core software, it's a community, and it's always innovating.
Yeah, by the way, the summary for that webinar is going to be expect delays for 1,000 different reasons, expect delays. And what can you do about it? Number one, issue documents as quickly as possible. And number two, prepare your students and scholars for the visa interview, because likely there's a good chance they won't get 2 or 3 interviews. Helping them go and prepare the first interview. Denial rates have really skyrocketed. 41% of student visas of F1 student visas were denied last year. So so that's kind of the quick summary there. But in the interest of time, I will skip. So student feedback, there's student feedback. Some real quick highlights of things that they say. I'm not accustomed to universities providing experiences that are this intuitive and helpful. I particularly enjoyed the Homebase videos. They're quite relatable and simplify complex information. So how can we distill something that's really ominous, like maintaining your visa status, into 4 minutes that they can really easily follow and understand? It takes a lot of effort to write those scripts and to get a lot of feedback on those scripts. I liked how clearly everything is explained, making it easier for students. Through Homebase, I met so many international students that are facing the same questions I have. It made me not feel alone. I can treat this as a dictionary of my graduate study and look for information when I need it. Everything is straightforward and so simple. Homebase removed all my fears about starting school in the US. And if you're using Canvas, most of the schools that we work with are using Canvas or another LMS. Won't go into the details here, but know that there's some of the benefits of moving from Canvas. Really quickly, I'll just go to some questions in the chat. Okay, so is there a basic orientation or introduction to the U.S. education academic system or structure? Yes. So here's an example of the template, and that template comes included with life on campus. So there's life outside of campus, U.S. academic culture, and you can adjust any of this. But this is, professors at different institutions talking about the norms of how you engage in the academic environment in the U.S. Here's student feedback. Here's academic success, academic integrity. And this was one of the videos that was requested recently, so we'll be doing more in depth on that. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of information there. All right, other questions? Providing information for dependents. I think we kind of went over a little bit of that. But yeah, you can create specific courses for them, or they can just access the courses there. Any other questions as we finish up here?
I did put my contact information in the chat. If you need to reach out, please feel free.
Yeah, I'll say we did surveys with the community, and we asked what videos should we create next and what templates should we create next. So the templates that we're going to be putting out that we already have in draft and we'll put out in the next few weeks are STEM OPT extension, know your legal rights in the USA. That's especially a hot topic right now. Taxes as an international student. So there's a variety of pieces of information there. And then let me see if there's anything else that I should be sharing. This is for universities. So this is on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend your orientation experience to a friend or colleague? These are responses from universities. So generally, pretty negative. So on the scale of -100 to 100, it just the primary feedback was the amount of effort that went into orientation each year, and then with Homebase, really simplifying that. So that's surveys to internationals. Yeah. So anyway, thank you. I think we'll kick it back over to Sharon at this point, or sorry, Karen at this point, and thanks so much for attending.
Well, thank you for this presentation. Please visit ioconference.info for more information and look at more sessions today. And go connect with everybody on International Office Connect. Once again, we would like to thank all of our wonderful sponsors. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
And I'll just add one thing. If it wasn't for IOC, I would probably have not met Moroni. So big shout out to IOC because they really helped and did some amazing things for us at Northwestern and definitely here at WashU as well.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.